Hello, I'm Elsa Nunez, president of Eastern Connecticut State University. The TIMPANI Toy Study is carried out by faculty and students working together to help early childhood professionals and parents discover which toys best help children learn. I hope you find this year's results as interesting as I do.
We began our study by seeking nominations from teachers and parents for toys to include in our study. We got 108 nominations altogether, and from that we randomly selected 10. So then we had 5 undergraduate students, student researchers, carry out the study.
So after we had our toys selected, we would distribute them to the classroom that they were scheduled for that week. And then for 3 days, we would film the children using the toy for 20-minute segments.
And then the students used an instrument that we developed to code children's play with these toys in the classroom.
I looked at their play behaviors and what kind of things they were doing and used the coding instrument. So we scored on things like how well they were thinking and learning, if they were doing any sort of problem solving and decision making, or how creative they were.
Whether the toy stimulated verbalization, did it stimulate some cooperative play, what type of communication were they using?
This year, there were 4 toys that scored so high on different items within our instrument that I think all of them deserve some mention. One of the sub-scores on our instrument was thinking and learning. That was a set of items that scored how much children solved problems with the toy, whether they demonstrated deep reflection or concentration. And what we found was that one toy scored much higher than all the others, a very innovative set of table puzzles.
There were multiple ways to make the puzzle. The creativity that comes with a puzzle is a lot of logic and thinking and trying and seeing what works. And those things were carried out with these puzzles, but to an extreme manner because there was no one right answer. There were a bunch of different ways to figure it out, and you could see their thinking process.
No, this goes there too. These puzzles in particular were a little tricky because they all had similar size pieces and they all looked kind of the same. They were all double-sided pieces.
It doesn't work. If I do like this, it doesn't work.
So you really saw each child kind of sit back and think like, this is still a semicircle, just like the other one was a semicircle, and trying to figure out exactly where they all went. And this isn't a puzzle that has a picture under it, and even the large outline was pretty big, so children had to put the 2 pieces together to figure out which corner it was going to go in or what piece in the middle it would help to make the whole shape. Sometimes you could see they were getting frustrated because they couldn't figure it out.
Can I help my puzzle? Yes.
But then you see them just be so persistent because they really wanted to be able to accomplish it.
There you go.
And it became not only a puzzle. We had one student who ended up building, he used the triangle pieces to balance them on kind of some arched pieces to make a castle. They're using their math thinking, they're using their creativity to create this whole ensemble and figure out which piece is going to balance and which piece is going to rest because of the flat edges and the rounded edges.
On a subscale on social interaction, which has items that measure how much children interact with one another, how cooperative they are in using the toy, we found that a make-believe doctor kit scored highest.
It is difficult to play as a doctor by yourself. You need to have a patient or a nurse to help you use the materials.
Trying to be the doctor here. Okay? I'm trying to save the baby. You can be the nurse, okay? Be the nurse. You want to be the nurse?
Even if a child is not comfortable interacting with another child, the doctor's kit really encouraged them to have that language and to bring it out of themselves.
I'm Boo-Boo. Hello? Hello? Do you have a sponsor? Yeah. Where's it? Where's the lettuce?
They ended up using it like a doctor's kit, but they also use it as a veterinarian's kit. The children decided to use the dog, the stuffed dog, as their patient.
It's something that children may have had experience with before. Most children have to go to the doctor or have been to a doctor at least one point in their life. There were a lot of different components to it. Someone could be the eye checker, someone could be checking the heart rate, somebody could be looking into your ear. So it allowed for a lot of people to contribute, and I think that kind of made them use those cooperative skills and those type of social skills because there were so many things that they wanted to try out on their own.
This is kind of consistent with other studies that have found that pretend play is really powerful in supporting children's social competence. Another area we looked at is creativity. On this item, we looked at how imaginative or creative children were in using the material, whether they used it in either imaginary ways or in unusual or, kind of atypical ways. And what we found is that the paints and easel that we studied scored highest in that area, which is really no surprise.
Painting at the easel allows children to be able to create things that they didn't originally think were possible. For example, when they create that new color with the two, they're amazed at, it's almost like a science experiment that they can make with the paints themselves.
Children of all abilities could use it in their own way. So there are some children that are very creative and they have an idea of where they want to go with their painting, and then there's some children that are just first exploring painting itself. So practicing brush strokes or mixing colors, and they would talk to each other and build off of each other.
You had to hurry.
The thing I liked most about the easel was that it's a double easel that children were able to create independently and also cooperatively. Two younger children really created their own specific painting while side by side. And then another group came in. They were checking out what one was doing, and then the other would check out what the other one was doing. And then one child asked the other if she would like to switch.
Not purple. I want some of yours. And if you let me switch. Also, okay, I'm gonna just switch.
They switched and worked on each other's paintings, and they complimented the paintings, and then they both agreed to switch again, and it was remarkable how they worked with one another. When it's the one piece of paper, they know that it is one complete work with the both of them working on it.
A new item that we added this year to our instrument was related to verbalization, or the amount of language and conversation that children have while they're playing with the toy. And what we found here is that the toy that scored highest in terms of eliciting language were little metal cars.
Go! I win! We both win!
I think a lot of children have background experience with cars and vehicles and something very relevant to their lives. So I saw a lot of acting out things that they would do during the day, like driving to a store. Some children I saw were using the vehicles as people, as characters, which was very interesting.
This one is gonna be their friend, because these are sisters and brothers.
It really lent itself to a variety of play, not just with roads and cars and what we would think would be typical play. They utilized all sorts of different materials. So they used the hollow blocks, they used furniture from the dollhouse. One child used a bookcase, and the cars fit perfectly inside there.
They became flying spaceship cars that climbed up and rolled down garages that were made of other blocks. So the type of things that you could create on your own using the toys, I think really stimulated that verbalization that we saw.
I really enjoyed the noises the children made. You heard a lot of vroom vroom and whoosh, crashing, and we're teaching children about onomatopoeia and different sound words, so just to hear them and then be able to relate that later so we could make comparisons.
4 very different toys scored so high on our instrument. Each of these toys contributed something special to children's development. However, 2 toys did score higher across all items. The first were the paints and easel. They scored very high on creativity. However, they also scored quite high on other areas like social interaction and even, surprising to us, thinking and problem solving. The other toy that scored high across items were the little metal cars. These also elicited a lot of social interaction, a lot of language. What surprised us about those toys were that they inspired higher quality play for girls than for boys. I think the recommendation we have for teachers and for parents is that different toys elicit different kinds of play for different children. One child might find a toy very attractive and engage in all kinds of elaborate play with it. Another child might be drawn to a different toy. And so I think ultimately teachers and also parents need to do some careful observation of what their children do with toys and pick things that really connect with their particular play style and temperament.
Being involved in the study has changed the way I think about toys because it really makes me think about what I would like to introduce to a child, whereas before it could have been, oh, it's just a toy, it doesn't matter. Now I can also think about, well, this toy encourages conversation, this toy encourages social interaction, and the benefits of the toy rather than just it's a toy and that's it.
I'm always surprised when a toy is well received and I might have a preconceived notion and think, oh, they'll never play with this toy. And then they enjoy playing with them and manipulating them. It's really nice that they get the opportunity to have different toys in the room.
I think I'm a little more open-minded about puzzles. I've always kind of said, maybe we need the puzzles that have the pictures in the background to kind of help out our children. But after seeing these puzzles, I know that some of my children are definitely capable of going there.
The paint and easel in particular, I think it guided me towards observing more than scaffolding as a teacher. This was material that really took very little teacher guidance. The children really led it all on their own. And I think in general, I've really taken a step back and been able to observe or assess more after this study.
It's important to observe children's play before you enter or help or guide them. It made me so much more aware of how I would choose materials. It helps me step back as an observer for myself or for other teachers to gain more knowledge about teaching and measuring children's abilities.
I learned that play is one of those new ways to look at all those approaches to learning. That it's a time to practice skills and to learn and acquire new skills. And I've also kind of seen new ways to assess how children are doing and feeling and thinking based on their play. What types of things are showing me that they're thinking creatively? What type of actions or words are they using that show me that they know how to act cooperatively?